That looks pretty good. That actually looks amazing. Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning and the Old Cookbook Show. We're going to do another recipe out of this cookbook, the Radiation Cookbook. Radiation Cookery Book. It is from England. It was put out by a company that was making gas ranges with a regulator very early on in the whole marketing of ovens that you could temperature control. And this book was first published in 1927. Let's see, let me open it up and make sure. 1927, and published pretty much continuously through the Depression and then through World War II, the war years, until this book was published in 1946. There may have been editions after this one. And it was made to sell their ovens with a gas regulator. If you've come across a recipe that asks for something with gas mark 6 or gas mark 5, this company started that. That was their thing. They came up with a gas regulator that had markings on it, and you didn't dial in a temperature, you dialed in how much gas went into the oven, which dialed in the temperature. They just called it gas mark. Anyway, we're going to do something called meat and batter pudding. And batter pudding is what Yorkshire pudding was called before Hannah Glass called it Yorkshire pudding. That's definitely a touchy point for some people, so we won't talk about it too much. But the first part of this recipe is that I'm supposed to make the batter pudding. So I've got flour, just regular old flour. We're going to put that in. Calls for 1.5 eggs. I hate recipes like that because it doesn't tell me what size eggs. If it told me 1.5 large eggs or 1.5 medium eggs, then I could sort of figure it out, but it just says 1.5 eggs. Anyway, I'm using 2 whole large eggs. I'm not fussing with breaking up an egg and then figuring out what to do with half an egg. I've got the milk, and we're just going to mix that together to make essentially a pancake batter. Now, the recipe tells me the next thing to do, if convenient, leave to stand in a cool place. So I happen to have a cool place, and I've got some time in my day, so I'm going to stick this in the fridge. I've got about 3 hours until I need to put this in the oven so that it's ready when Julie gets home from work. So into the fridge for about 3 hours it's going to go. Okay, we're just about ready to go. So I've got some beef mince here in this bowl. Recipe says I could use minced beef or mutton. Doesn't say anything about cooking it at this point. So I've got raw beef mince here, and I'm supposed to put in some gravy just until it's moist, but not liquid. So let's mix in that much and see what happens. Let's go with a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know about moist and liquid. Anyway, it then tells me to add the seasoning, and I'm given a choice between tomato ketchup or powdered mace. Ketchup is the easier option. I think powdered mace wouldn't be to the liking of a lot of palates today. Some people find it far too strong. So we'll put in some ketchup. We are a French's household. And we'll mix that in, see what happens. So that's looking pretty good. We're going to add some salt and pepper as well. So a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt. Give that a mix. And we'll get that into the pan. The recipe says to use a well-greased pie dish. I'm using this cast iron frying pan, well-greased, because I don't think I've got a pie dish that's big enough. I really don't. So we'll get the meat into the bottom. That amount of meat pretty much comes up halfway in the pan. And I know that any of the pie dishes, pie tins, or pie plates that I have, they would be filled by that amount of meat. So we'll get the batter. So earlier when I made the batter, I completely forgot to put in the salt. So I'll put that in now. I'm going to say it was strategic. On an earlier episode where we did Yorkshire puddings, I found that putting the salt in later might have helped a little bit. So we'll stir the salt in. And we'll pour this over the meat. Yeah, if I had done this in a pie, even the big 9.5-inch deep dish pie plates that I have, that would have overflowed. And I'm already worried about it. So I'm going to put it onto a baking tray so that if it does overflow, which I'm pretty much expecting at this point, it won't get all over the bottom of my oven. Now I'm supposed to cook this 1 hour at Regulo Mark 6. I've got the oven at 425. I'll set it for an hour and we'll see what happens. Ooh. That looks pretty good. That actually looks amazing. Okay, so this looks amazing. I wasn't sure if it was going to puff up as much as Yorkshire pudding does. It didn't, although it puffed up quite a bit.
Ooh,
hey, Jules.
Glen, that looks pretty fancy. Hey, friends.
It is the epitome of not fancy.
Okay, that's even better. What do I need for that?
It is the epitome of, I'm thinking spoon, maybe? I don't know.
I'll bring a fork just in case.
I'm thinking this is comfort food. This is comfort food, pure comfort food. Can I get it out?
I'm fascinated that you decided to cut it like a pie.
I know. Well, let's see if I can get in there with a scoop. Let's get a plate. Okay, let's go.
Oh, actually, you did a good job there, Glenn. Nice. Especially since you used a spoon for the pie.
Here you go, Jules.
Thank you.
Okay.
So something that has a very sweet smell.
Ketchup.
Oh, that would be a very sweet smell.
Yep.
Yes, that tells me everything that I was trying to put my finger on.
Metal knife, enameled cast iron pan, not a problem. Stop freaking out. It would be a problem if I was doing this, but I'm not. Relax. Please, relax.
Do I look panicked?
Oh, there's someone out there already typing.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
It's a thing. It's a thing. But it's not a thing.
I don't know that do I have to wait for you? I'm ready.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The meat is still hot. The other is an acceptable temperature, but I'm not sure what the other is.
It's meat and batter pudding. Batter pudding is just Yorkshire pudding.
I was going to
By
say
a
it's got a
different
very
name. Yeah.
it's got a very Yorkshire kind of texture to it, but a little softer.
Yes, because it's steamed from underneath, right?
Yes, now that you suggest steaming, it
Yeah.
definitely has that steamed.
Yeah.
I don't know. It reminds me of a lot of other steamed things.
It was never.
rice,
Yeah, it was.
steamed,
It was
yeah.
never going to puff because it's steamed from underneath. We added the gravy and the ketchup to the ground beef. All of those things are giving off liquid as they cook, so it's a steamed pudding. It's got really good flavor. You could go hog wild with the flavoring of the ground beef.
You could add vegetables.
You could, yes.
I'm going to say it every time. Why kid ourselves?
mean, you could make this the meat layer like you would make any sort of cottage pudding or shepherd's pie, and then with the batter pudding on top instead of mashed potatoes. Flavorful, comforting, filling, relatively inexpensive. And if you wanted to, you could replace the milk that I used for the batter pudding with water.
Kool-Aid is working out for Glen.
I'm digging this. That's really good. Okay.
I like the crispy part.
Just because, you know,
I don't know.
I put it on a tray inside my oven because I feared, and it did. So, you know, use a tray. I'm sure most people have that tray that you don't use for anything
Everyone
else.
owns that tray.
Put that underneath this
thing
when
you've already,
the one
you
that
know.
you've already ruined.
Yep.
Put it underneath this when you cook it in your oven and save yourself the grief of immense cleanup later. This is amazing. So let me know if this was part of your growing up or if you make something like this still today. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.